Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your patience in holding. We now have your presenters in conference. Please note that participation on this webinar is by express written invitation of the AHA only. Unauthorized participants and/or any party that aids and abets such unauthorized participants may be subject to criminal and civil penalties under both state and federal law. Please disconnect from the phone and/or log off the webinar if the AHA did not expressly invite your participation. Please also note each of your lines is in a listen-only mode. You may submit questions or comments at any time by using the chat window located to the bottom right of your slideshow interface. You may also download a PDF copy of today's presentation by using the resources pod located above the chat. It is now my pleasure to introduce our speaker today, Mr. Kelly Mason.
Hello, thank you very much, David. And welcome to everyone, and thanks for spending a few minutes with us today for your lunch. We're going to talk a little bit today about managing barriers in healthcare, and obviously with some of the recent issues that have been happening in our world, bring up some new challenges as well, and we'll talk a little bit about some of that as well. As we move through this, if you have any questions, you can put those in the chat, and I'll answer those at the end. So when we talk about managing of barriers, a standard operating practice always comes to mind, and STI developed a standard operating practice many years ago. Many hospitals, some of you that I see the names on the participants have utilized. And the standard operating practice is a tool that is built to help you manage who, what, where, and when are coming into your buildings. And if you don't have an SOP, it's highly suggested that you maybe have a conversation with me or one of my teammates and discuss how we can help you with that application. A standard operating practice is a full overview. Obviously, we're going to talk about bid documents, all the different procedural and performance requirements. I'm going to dive in a little bit today about proper submittal applications, which we don't typically see in pre-existing space, and we should be asking for that. Obviously, good installation requirements, because I see a lot of applications in the field that aren't done properly, and it's maybe just because of not knowing what a UL system should look like, what red sealant, red fire stop sealant doesn't fix everything. And we're going to talk a little bit about the need for an architectural specification when the need arises. So if you have a project that's going to require an architectural presence, having a good specification written around your standard is very, very important. So when someone would walk into the building you have an SOP in place, they would obtain the most current version of that SOP, and that would give them the information they need to know, which we'll dive into a little deeper in a few minutes. You want to make sure that person that's going to be entering into that barrier obtain prints detailing hourly ratings. It could be a smoke barrier, it could be a partition, it could be a rated assembly, but we need to know that and know what that scope of work is going to look like. Obtain the manufacturer's product application information. Obtain a penetration permit. Many of you use some sort of a permitting program for people that come in and out of the building. And as it pertains to vendors working within the above ceilings, never more important, especially now. So having a permit application of who is in the building, and it doesn't just stop there. Having a full accounting of what UL assemblies were applied while that person was doing that work is very, very, very important. So submitting that schedule of penetrations, UL drawings, if there are any engineering judgments for non-standard applications, making sure they're there, because while there may be thousands of UL assemblies and tests that have been done, what we find sometimes is we may find something above the ceiling tile or above a fire door that doesn't really meet what the application or what a UL system requires, so we may have to get engineering involved in that. Questions for consideration. Do you have an established protocol for managing fire stop compliance? A lot of times when I walk into a facility and we're having some conversation, maybe the permitting process is in order, and the permit shows who came in the building, what time he was there, but it kind of falls short from that point moving forward. Again, having an accounting or a data collection of what UL assemblies were applied and where they were applied in the building is very, very important. And I'll show you in a few minutes how that helps with the person that is required to go back out and do the inspection for those applications as well. Do you have a barrier management process in place? Again, the SOP is a tool placed within that barrier management program. We can help you with that. We have a great process built. Many hospitals use it. Do these processes that you may have in place force accountability? And we'll talk a little bit about accountability as well. Do they provide a complete understanding of what is expected? Again, a good SOP process will have all that information within the document. A managerial approach to fire stop is what a barrier management program is all about. You know, you obviously need support systems, specialized support. You know, STI has a healthcare dedicated team throughout the U.S. and around the world. Technical support is very important because, again, getting engineering involved in things that may not be the most typical is very, very important. You don't want to guesswork there. You want to make sure that we provide some sort of an engineer solution for the application at hand. Training is of the utmost importance. We'll talk a little bit about our training program in a few minutes, but training is critical. And having a comprehensive training is critical, making sure that the people fully understand what is expected. We're not talking, you know, how our products are better than their products. That's not what this is about. It's about industry standards. It's about, you know, properly reading a UL system selection, what a good inspection should look like, all those things. And then you need to also make sure that you cover the bases. Is the application that you're going to apply, is it re-enterable? Does it need to be re-enterable? Is it a cable penetration where you may have an issue with overloading of sleeves? Joint movement capabilities. A lot of times there's misapplied products in a joint that's requiring movement. Is acoustics important to you, et cetera, et cetera? So what a barrier management program is really, what it's going to perform for you is who, what, where, when, and why fire stop is being done and or inspected. This is a very useful tool if you're using a specialty fire stop contractor as well. They can be brought in as part of the solution for a barrier management in healthcare facility. They should be part of the conversation for sure. So if we're going to maintain a life safety barrier, you know, that all starts with survey and identifying what action is needed. Adopt that SOP, determine how the funds, you know, for the repairs. If you have a good accounting of what is in that wall assembly and what needs that repair, it makes it easier when you go to C-suite and ask for that funding. Arrange fire stop training to certify any installer, whether it's in-house, it's a specialty fire stop contractor. Conduct random destructive inspections, whether you're doing that in-house or you're using a third party. Very important to make sure that accountability is there and the process is being done correctly. And then we can document that progress. And there's many ways that you can go about documenting, and we'll talk about a few of those in a minute. Why do we do it? We want to meet regulatory compliance. Goes without saying. We want to promote proper installations per the codes, stop an annual outlay of capital. All too often, you know, we know that an inspection is coming. We start to have the meetings. Let's get everybody together. The dollars start to roll out the door. If we have a very proactive approach, those giant spikes in costs go away. Exhibit a very proactive approach to the inspector that is going to be initiating that. Prevent property loss, and obviously life safety is the foremost importance. A little bit about specified technologies. We are a global company. Fire stop is all that we do. And as you can see, we have locations all around the world. An engineering staff of many, and I like to boast about this because being able to get an engineering judgment on an application is typically done in 24 hours or less, and these guys here have set the standard for that. So very important. Sometimes you don't have time to wait, and you need answers. So if you're not sure about what you're looking at or what questions to ask, if you go to STIFirestop.com, you can actually go on a live chat and talk with one of these personnel about your application so that we can expedite it. So let's talk a little bit about that FIT training. That FIT training that we designed for healthcare is fire stop installer training. All the bullet points that you see here, we get into great detail about them. We also talk about, ratings of wall assemblies and what types of wall assemblies have ratings, those kinds of things, whether they're smoke, they're fire, or both. We talk about the UL systems and the parameters, very, very important. It's a big part of the testing apparatus that we provide once this course has been taken. We want anyone to walk away from this and be able to achieve looking for a UL system that will meet any requirement. And if you can't meet that requirement based on the data that's there, then you have access to an engineer that can help you with that. Many types of fire stop applications, right? Penetrations, all types. High traffic openings, very, very important, especially in healthcare. There's a lot of reenterability that needs to be, to make a product sustainable or a process sustainable. Construction joints, they act differently than penetrations. So we need to make sure that we're using the right products there. Proper installations, we get into great detail about those bullet points and the proper installations for those types. And we also talk about myths, about fire stop. Again, red sealant doesn't fix everything. There is some great applications using, intumescent fire stop sealant, but they don't do everything for you. And sometimes I think we fall back on that, and we may apply misapplied applications. So when we're doing our assessments, obviously there's many different types. Cabling will act completely different than maybe a pipe penetration. There may be a combination of the two, where you have a sleeve and cable passing through the sleeve. Ducts, you need to be very careful there. All too often I see fire stopping around damper ducts. There are very few systems that will allow for that. You need to make sure, the point being is that the system, the UL assembly must meet the application. Joints, again, a lot of movement associated with many joints. So you want to make sure that you have a product that will allow for elasticity. Blank openings, membrane penetrations, where you have a single-sided penetration through a rated barrier. Multiple penetration openings. We see these a lot, especially if you think about your fire doors in healthcare, and you pop a ceiling tile and you'll see one giant opening with everybody's service running through that. Those are intricate. We need to make sure that we have the proper applications for those. Let's talk a little bit about submittals. Now, submittals are a very common process for any construction project. So a contractor is awarded a project, a portion of the project. He would then provide an accounting of what he's going to do. So if it is a pipe penetration through a wall, he will do his research, find a UL assembly that will meet that application, put it in the packet. Maybe he's doing a curtain wall application, a joint application. Oh yeah, we have some cable tray that we need to deal with. He will go out and find the UL systems associated with that, and based on the facility's criteria for what product they're using, he'll build around that. And that should be a submittal that he gives to you at the end of the day. This is the systems that I'm going to apply. I'm talking pre-existing space. You should be asking for a submittal on all processes. So that way there's no guesswork. And if an authority-heavy jurisdiction comes in and wants to, do some sort of an inspection, you will have an accounting of what should be there. And because you may not be the one that did the installation, or you may not even be the one that did the in-house inspection. So very, very important. The applicator certificates issued by the manufacturer that they have passed the fit level certification, all this is important as part of a SOP submittal process. We like to color code them. This is something, think about it this way. If you have a submittal packet of what was done on a project, no matter how big or how small, and the inspector comes in and says, let's go out in the field and take a look at what you're doing, or maybe now you're doing it virtually, which we'll talk about in a minute, you grab this binder of systems and you go out to the field. So when he says, what UL system would that be? You're able to easily find that information based on the fact that you're asking anybody that gets above a ceiling tile for this type of information pertaining to products or projects that they're doing within your building. Now, a couple of ways to document that. You can obviously do the 3-ring binder application, which works fine. Our original barrier management program is built around that process as well. So you would secure that information I just showed you. That would go in the binder along with your permitting process. That's all there, so you have a true accounting of who was there, when they were there, what they did, and the UL systems used. Or you may want to move to a more digital process. So this is called Fire Stop Locator. As you can see, it can be used by multiple mobile tools. It's a very simple process to use. It is also used both in iOS and Android. These could be done on either the app itself in the field or, from the website, maybe at the control desk. It's very interactive. We use your drawings. Your life safety drawings would be entered into the app. So at any time, you can scroll through, find where you're at in the building, tap the screen, and start to answer some typical questions that would be associated with a UL assembly or a process. And you can see here that you can either use a QR code or maybe you use some sort of a sticker like you see here. So if you look here, this is the older process, and at the very least, a label, if you're using the 3-ring binder type process, this would be something that would be applied to the wall. I talked about accountability. If I have to sign my work, I'm probably going to take a little bit more time and create the right detail. Or you enter the information in the locator and you have a QR barcode. So if you and the inspector are walking through the building, or you're interested in knowing what's been done at a particular location, you could actually scan that barcode and see all the information that was entered associated with that penetration. Excuse me. The other things are that we also provide doors, dampers, and extinguishers as part of the process associated with FireStop Locator. We are working on some more processes that will be associated with that as well, so stay tuned. You may be able to use this as a true barrier management tool moving forward for all applications. Think about inspections. I was reading some articles recently about some of the inspections going virtual for obvious reasons. If you documented all the information, you could actually have a conversation with an authority having jurisdiction, excuse me, and when he wants to talk about dampers or fire stopping or extinguishers, whatever the case may be, you could send him a document that would have all this information in an Excel, a JPEG, a PDF, whatever you care, whatever you want to. Or if he's in the building, you walk through, you hit the barcode, you could actually look at it that way as well. Very interactive tool, and I see it being used more and more now that we're doing virtual inspections in the future. So now I want to talk a little bit about traditional methods versus engineered solutions. Both fire stopping applications, but very different in their applications. So when we're talking about the quality assurance of high traffic openings, this is something that would be in a typical SOP. If you're using STI product, you would say something like, high traffic openings are those requiring frequent retrofit. All high traffic openings shall be fire stopped using EasyPath whenever possible. That will ensure that you don't have overloaded sleeves or cable trays in the future. And typically, if they're in a high traffic area and they were initially installed using a sleeve with putty or caulk, once you exceed that mid 45% range, you're in danger of exceeding the compliance of that particular UL assembly. So again, what to consider? It doesn't need to be reentranceable. No requirement for removal of product. And you know where I'm going with this. That EasyPath product doesn't require any removal, opening, or shutting, or anything. No requirement for sleeve alteration. No requirement for cable load worries. Can the device be retrofit to existing cables? Very important. So if you do have applications within your building where you've got sleeves that may be overloaded, we're going to show you a device that can fix that with simply one screw and done. Are they gangable? So if you have reason to grow the process, more cable capacity, you want to be able to do that too. Allows for easy moves, adds, and changes, therefore being a sustainable product. So EasyPath, many of you know this product. This product was built for those types of applications. This line continues to grow, and I'm going to show you a couple of brand new products today. What you see here is just various applications where EasyPath can be utilized. If you look at the first one to the left, both smoke and acoustical, maybe a grommet for just a few cables at a time, vertical or horizontal, retrofittable. If you're worried about space and capacity within a room, you can manage this by having multiple cables in one location, creating more space for other things. Wall applications, gangable again, on and on. We can also segregate cables. So if it's your wish to keep maybe data communication away from security, you could easily do that by identifying, we make this product in multiple colors. As you can see on the right, for future compliance, we have sealed this one up, but we're going to have EasyPath, excuse me, above. So let's talk a little bit about floor penetrations. Will these penetrations be located within confined spaces? Will they require reentry? Will they need future growth? All part of a life safety plan. So this process would be maybe in your data communication cloud that's moving vertical. And as you can see, the grid system can go from 1 to 5,000 cables. And you add capacity as you need. There is a blank that would go over part of the grid system. You pull that blank off, add another module, your capacity goes up from there. Excuse me, I've got to take a drink of water. So you create a lot of floor space by doing this. If you had individual sleeves based on the sleeve capacity, it would be 49% tops on each one of these. Over time, what starts to happen is you get an overloaded sleeve. Excuse me. And if you look at the picture below, no matter how much product you jam in that opening, you're still not going to have a compliant issue. What we find is that most applications for conventional methods being sealants and putties for all manufacturers don't exceed anywhere between the 49 and 45% range. So if you have a sleeve out there in your facility that you know exceeds that capacity, then you have a non-compliant no matter how much sealant or putty you put in that opening. So how do you fix that? This product is called our retrofit device. And if you haven't seen it yet, it's a clamshell device that would actually attach right to the sleeve, or it could be screwed right to the wall assembly. This will take your cable load requirement from 50 to 100% fill. One screw, and you're done. Now, in addition to that, we just rolled out a brand new product. Cable trays have the same issue. So we have now a new EasyPath cable tray retrofit device, brand new to the market. And you can see you can do this is an interchangeable device that can go from 12-inch to 18-inch wide cable trays. And it also will take the tested cable fill from 50 to 100%. Great product, brand new. Now, due to COVID, there has been a couple of new things that have come to light, and I wanted to end with a new product that we are working on right now. It's called the Clinician Patient Access Device. Excuse me. And I'm going to show you a few photographs of some of the things that are being done. But, you know, obviously when monitoring a patient, there are many, many devices that have to be dealt with. The caregiver goes into the room, accesses those monitors, can administer what the patient's needs. All these monitors have many things that are coming out of them, you know, through to the patient itself. Again, all inside the room assembly. But then COVID hit, and once that happened, we created a whole different issue. Now we need to make sure that we're serving personal protective equipment. Not that you wouldn't be doing that before, but now more than ever, especially with someone that may be infected with COVID-19. Minimize need to enter the room for routine tasks. Maintain the ability to change medication from afar. This shows a photograph of a hospital using what, you know, because of what's going on with the pandemic, people have had to alter the way they do some of their daily functions. And what you're seeing here is some of the equipment outside of the room assembly, and the tubes are run under the doorway. Not optimal, but you got to do what you have to do. Here's another one that shows cords and tubes and things like that running outside of the doorway to eliminate touch to the patient. Not saying that that needs to be eliminated completely, but maybe you're able to, if your requirement is once an hour, maybe you're doing that every 2 hours. Maybe you're doing that every 3 hours. A lot of hospitals are trying to come up with a new process dealing with these types of applications. In this particular shot, you see right there by C, someone put a conduit through the wall assembly, and it has a bushing on the outside. I don't know what's in that to stop maybe air, leakage and that kind of thing. But again, it's a makeshift process for being able to deal with, the new issues we're all faced with. STI has come up with a process, the new clinical patient access device. It provides a portal through the wall assembly. It is a flush mount design, so you're not extending into the hallway itself. It also keeps separation from the caregiver from the patient, and you can access through the portal all the monitors and those kinds of things, and eliminating touches within. Now, this product is rated for fire, smoke, air leakage, and STC ratings to match the corridor wall. Gives you a little better shot of what the product will look like. And as you can see, it's a flush mount design. The color of the product itself has been designed to be more aesthetically pleasing to the typical corridor colors. And this gives you a great portal that will allow you to run equipment outside of that corridor and keep separation when possible. This gives you a little better idea of what the bladder system looks like. So as you run your cables and cords through that opening, you're creating a tight seal around those cables so that you don't let air in or out of that patient room. All of these products and tools that I showed you today can be found at www.stifirestop.com. You can also go on that application and look for Access STI and Join Access STI, which will allow you to get into more tools that STI provides. At STI, products are but one component of our value package. As a fully focused manufacturer, we are committed to providing complete solutions to your fire stop needs and challenges. We remain committed to these values, our client partnerships, and the fire stop industry. That is a statement by Charbel Tager, the president of STI. And that concludes my presentation today. I'm going to go ahead and answer a couple of the questions. Dave, do you want me to go ahead and answer some of the questions you see on the right?
Yes, sir. Go right ahead.
Okay. I see one question. Do you provide training on the products purchased as part of your service? Absolutely, we do. We have multiple levels of training. If we're wanting to train installers, then I highly suggest a fit level certification, but we also do a Fire Stop 101 that would get more into the process of each individual product, but yes, we do provide that. Let me read down here. Are customers all in the U.S. or does STA also service other countries as well? Yes, we are worldwide. We have locations in the Middle East, Europe, all throughout U.S., and we have, these are fully functioning offices. We have personnel on China, many all around the country. So you let me know where you need some help, and I can help you with that as well. Let's see here. Just drilling through here. Lots of hellos from friends in the industry. Hello to everyone. There's a question here. Who confirms that the Easy Path maximum size for maximum structural floor openings? I'm not sure how to answer that question. What I can tell you is the Easy Path, as it pertains to floor openings, You would probably want to get an IT engineer involved with the capacity that you're going to need, maybe, and you look at that from a 5-year standpoint, and that would maybe help determine, the amount of product that would be needed there. I hope that answers your question. I'm not sure. You can retype to me if you want. Who verifies the fire stop information in the software document is accurate with the actual installation? That is a good question. So in my opinion, for that process, someone within the facility that is overseeing your barrier management process and your standard operating practice, that is why that submittal packet is so important. If we know that it's an electrical conduit coming through a 2-hour rated drywall assembly, then we want to make sure that the application provided to that and the proof of the application provided for that is a tested UL assembly that states that product and those processes are part of that system. So that is a very good question. So it would have to be somebody, Dean. Now, listen, when overseeing submittal packets, you can call on your STI group to help you with that as well. Maybe even help build you a battery of systems that you then put forward. So being that we're in healthcare so often, we know what systems you're going to need. We'll be able to probably knock out 99.9% of it. So maybe we say, these are the only 5 systems, Mr. Electrician, you're allowed to use here. These are the only 5 systems you're allowed to use, Mr. IT Contractor. And then that narrows the field down to select systems that you prefer in your building. Very good question. I think that's all the questions I see. Again, hello to everyone. Thanks for a lot of great topics, very topical. I appreciate that. David, I think that's it.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, with no further questions, we will go ahead and conclude today's presentation. You may disconnect your phone lines, log off your webinars, and thank you for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you, everyone.